Hello, peace be upon you. Welcome to this happiness question and answer show where I'm really looking forward to any questions you have about life. So, this show is about giving short and simple ways, ancient, tried and tested ways, not from me, but from Islam specifically, but generally from the teachings of the many religions that are actually all connected. They have the same source, and that is God. So that's a quick introduction. You can check out all my previous shows at bigquestionsanswered.com. Hopefully that's big enough. Let's make it even bigger by putting it on a banner. There you go. Right, and what else have I got to say? This is the show for everyone. You don't have to be a Muslim. I encourage questions. I encourage people to even argue with me. Sometimes people, especially nowadays, they feel like they have to be in this on the left hand, in the left or the right, or this camp or that camp, and they don't feel like they can really express themselves. I want people to be comfortable in expressing themselves. People having different points of view is not a bad thing. I think it's only bad when we don't have enough respect to listen to each other a little bit and be interested in what the other person's got to say. Anyway, that's my quick intro. I'm going to talk about a couple of things, but interrupt me, ask your questions, and I will change the topic accordingly. The first thing I'd like to do is give a weekly happiness tip. And this is every single teaching of Islam is designed to make you happier. And here is one saying from Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him. Be in this world as if you are a stranger or a traveler. In the evening, do not expect to live until the morning, and in the morning, do not expect to live until the evening. Take advantage of your health before times of sickness, and take advantage of your life before your death. It's beautiful. This is one of the one of the things that changed my life, but this, when I just think about it, and I'm going to explain it, because sometimes when you haven't had time to delve on it and think about it, you don't really appreciate what it's saying. So I'm going to paraphrase it in different ways. So hopefully you can take the benefit that I do. When you have a lot of something, we easily take it for granted. And a lot of people, I'll say almost most people, when I come across them, they're not excited about being alive today. I'm trying to look into the camera. I got a bit of feedback, by the way. Give me feedback. One bit of feedback is I don't look into the camera enough. Okay, so when you have a lot of something, you take for granted what you have, and you don't see how lucky you are. I've said before, I feel lucky that I get to breathe, and I purposely remind myself of a time when I was sick that I had trouble breathing, and it was really painful, and each breath was like, I'm so lucky that I can breathe, sort of thing. And I use that to remind myself how lucky I am. In the same way, this saying is saying when you think you have lots of years to live, today just becomes another day. And it's like, why am I waking up? What am I doing, sort of thing. But if you think this is the last day of your life, then you begin to appreciate. You become more alive, more lucky. You feel more lucky. You start taking advantage of your life. This is what it's about. Okay, so lots of people who are really successful do think that way. There's a famous Steve Jobs speech called a commencement speech, like a university thing, Stanford. Check it out on YouTube. And one of the things he says is live every day as if it's your last. And he added on to it, like Steve Jobs is not like some prophet or something, lots of flaws. So some people might go, hang on a minute, how can you even mention him? Different people have different bits of wisdom to take from. Okay, so as long as you're not hateful towards people, then you can learn from people, whoever they are. Anyway, and so he, after saying live every day as if it's your last, he continued to sort of back that up, and he said, if you do live that way, then if for a few days, I know kind of a bit of a contradiction, but if for a few days you're doing something you're not comfortable with, then start planning to go in a different direction. Well, he was more extreme. Okay, he'd be like, yeah, forget this sort of thing, right? But you got to start thinking that way. What do you really believe in? Do that thing. Take advantage of your life. Right. And so, yeah, realizing that if in the evening, if you're alive in the evening, do not expect to wake up the next day. And if you wake up in the morning, do not expect to live in the evening. That's essentially the same idea. And you might say, why make the fuss of even breaking it down in those two parts? Why don't you just say, you do not expect to live another day or something, another 24 hours or something? I think there's a sense of beauty in that. It's just Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing of God be upon him, was a brilliant psychologist. He understood people. And when I read it, I feel like, yeah, I mean, I need to break up the day in those two parts, like my day, and then when I go to sleep, kind of like, yeah, it helps me anyway. So whatever. Let's not go into too much depth about that. And then there's this extra, I don't know, extra, but like more for me, there's like, be lucky that you're not sick. Feel lucky that you're not sick, right? When you're not sick. I'm not really that sick anymore, but anyway, yeah, just feel lucky about the stuff you have. And I like this thing about take advantage of your life before your death. There's a lot of people who say you've only got one life. Like, that's not true anyway. You can argue why that's not true. We can talk about that logically. But yeah, it's just a more beautiful way of saying it. Take advantage of your life before your death. Hey, isn't that cool? So that kind of thinking, very quickly, if I'm ever feeling, I don't know, like I'm not too excited about today, then I just think that. That's one of the things I do. One of the other things I do is I remember God, because if you're feeling that too much, that means you've kind of lost your direction. So there's a sort of, how would I describe it? God himself describes, and this is kind of going off on a tangent maybe, God describes himself as the womb. Rahman is the Arabic, or Rahim is the Arabic. And so there's a beautiful description a friend of mine gave. He said there's like an umbilical cord between you and God, as it were. An umbilical cord is like, if you don't know, it's just like the way you get fed when you're a baby inside the womb. And so you need to maintain that connection for your soul to stay alive. So, and the way you do that is just mentally just remember God, and suddenly you feel better. So that's kind of 2 happiness tips. I'm going to try working on this main happiness tip. This first one is truly one of my favorites. Be in this world as if you are a stranger or a traveler. So this is part of the same saying, but split into 2. There's all technical reasons why I split into 2, but anyway, so be in this world if you're a stranger or a traveler. I love that so much, partly because like we're often looking to go on holiday somewhere else on planet Earth, but see yourself as being on holiday in this life on planet Earth. You are on holiday for a short while, and it comes back to this idea that you're only here for a short while, and don't take it for granted. And it's just such a, psychologically, it's a beautiful effect. There are similar sayings that go something like, be like a traveler who rests under a tree for a short while. And the idea of that is taking in the scenery, And the idea of that is like you don't need lots of stuff to be happy. Because you're resting under a tree is not a comfortable situation. But if you think about it, I love to think about it like this: like, who's the happier person? The person on the beach, walking on the beach, on a sandy, beautiful, warm beach without their shoes, or the person who's wearing very smart, plasticky, hot, I don't know, shoes, walking to a job they don't like? It's not how much you have and the stuff you have. It's like, are you enjoying life? You often need less to be happier. So that's I'll end that little 10-minute segment on that, because I try to cut things in two part 10-minute segments. Right, next thing. So I like to talk about things specifically according to different people's issues, rather than just talking about things in sphere theory. And so here we go. Personal issue. I'm going to start off with this one, which I sort of planned because I think it explains a lot. And then I'm going to try to do all these as well. I don't know. Let's just see what happens. Okay, so how to feel successful every day. Right. So I've noted 3 little things here. It's psychology. I'm going to keep linking it with psychology and mixing it between psychology and religion. Actually, what I mean to say is that I basically follow religious teachings and then give find psychological, famous psychological research that backs it up, so that you feel that it's not just me saying, this is my belief, you should believe it as well. I'm saying logically, here is the data, and ask your soul as well. Like, ask yourself, like, does this make sense? That's how I like to try to convince people. Anyway, so if you want to feel successful every day, it's really important that you have a purpose. Okay. And having a purpose, as a Viktor Frankl, I think he is, top psychologist, dead now, but he wrote a book about man's need for meaning or something like that. Okay. He basically said that a basic need for a human being is to have a purpose. Otherwise, they don't know what to do with their life and how to move forward or be excited. He was a Holocaust survivor, and he said the people who survived are the ones who had some sort of really meaningful reason to continue living, because it was so hard. Okay, so having a purpose is good, and the better the purpose, the better for you. The higher level of that purpose, the better for you. And one of the things I try to get across is that people often are so confused about what really makes them happy. Okay, we have a sort of child level understanding, often in sort of materialistic societies, where it's like, if I just had this, I would be happier. But the truth is that we are really strange and sophisticated beings. Like, we could have all the money in the world, reminds me of this movie, which backs up what I'm going to say, and you won't be happy. Like, there was this guy in the movie, and this is common, I've seen it in documentaries of really rich people. It's like, they asked this guy, the richest people, one of the richest people ever to be alive, like, how much do you need? And his answer was, more. Right? You never got enough is the point. So we are sophisticated beings that need all these subtle kind of things that are the intangibles, the things like love and connection and inner peace, purpose, direction. Anyway, what does Islam say about that? It says everybody has a goal that takes over their mind, that controls them. I don't know the word exactly, right? Paraphrasing here. But you, Muslims, make it your life to do good things, to not even just to do good things, to encourage other people to do good things. This is what this show is about. I don't advertise. I don't get money for this, right? I purposely don't do that, right? So I really don't want money for this, okay? I want to do good things. I want you to do better for yourself and tell other people the same stuff. Like you can tell them about the show or not tell them about the show, and you just tell them the same stuff yourself. Okay. So if you have that purpose, that simple purpose of doing better for the world, you will feel successful every day, because I have to remind myself, like, what am I talking about again? About feeling successful every day. Okay, so having a purpose is really important. Doing good, that's the same point, never mind. Okay, and then remembering God. Okay, so why remembering God? What's that got to do with anything? So why do you want to feel successful? It's because you're missing something inside. It's kind of sadness. So actually, you don't just want to feel this weird sense of idea of like being successful. What does that even mean? You basically want to have inner peace. And really, to find inner peace, remember God. Okay, remembering God is that thing that you need to do to connect to your creator. Why do you need to connect to your creator? Well, there's might be all sorts of reasons we could give. Okay, but remember, basic human need, and you can YouTube this, Google it, because I'm not always going to get references, because the references are all over the internet. A basic human need is connection, and the higher the level of connection, the better. So what do I mean by that? Because often people give me feedback like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Why are you talking? There's all these weird words and stuff. Okay, what do I mean by the higher the level of connection, the better? What I mean by that is, like, if you go to a football match, okay, a lot of people say we feel really connected in a football match, but actually they don't. And there's a lot of psychological evidence to say the problem with, sorry, I'm saying something and I'm not explaining it. So in a football match, you be going, yeah, ooh, oh, and all these kind of sounds weird. They're not really communicating anything deep. Okay, you feel part of a tribe. You feel connected, and togetherness is happiness. It's true. There's truth in that. Okay, but it's not all of happiness. It's a kind of it's like its use is good in some context. Okay, so that's kind of good, but you're not having a deep connection with other people, not really communicating. You're just being sort of tribalistic, and that sense of community does help a little bit in happiness. Okay, but it's kind of minimal. So then if you have some sort of meaningful conversation with person where you're really communicating how you feel, or listening, even better, listening to other people and how they feel and helping them out and stuff, then you start having a higher level of communication or connection. And then the highest level of connection is going to be with God, right? Because he's the highest being. Okay, and why do I say that? What's the evidence? So there is plenty of evidence, let's just say, that people who only do small talk feel disconnected. That is why so many people, let's say in London, are so unhappy. They always say hello, whatever. They have the kind of, they talk to people at work, but they're not really talking at a high level. Yes, at a high level. Sorry, I'm checking out the time every now and then, trying to keep to 10-minute segments. So it's really important to have that higher level thinking and higher connection. So that's really important. But the other benefit of remembering God is that God is like your compass. What do I mean by that? Okay, because if you want to feel successful, part of the meaning or the feeling of success is making progress in some way, evolving, developing. That's what God wants from you. It's just the way you're made, you're constantly developing. And if you're not constantly developing, you feel sad. Okay, so to do that, if you need to know which way to develop yourself. And if you remember God exists, and that, like, God is watching you, and God wants you to do better things and make the world a better place, then that's your compass. And then you start, you make every small decision in life, you try to do that for God, and then you feel better and more successful as well, and you're making progress, you're becoming a better person. Now, a lot of people will like be wondering, like, hang on a minute, I just want to talk about my job. I want a job that makes me feel more successful. So, okay, fine, we'll talk about that in like 30 seconds. But before I do, I want to say that that's one of the reasons why people are so miserable, because they limit the idea of success through their jobs in this little window of their life, that their job might be rubbish, right? So there might not be much scope for you to feel success in your life. Having said your job might be rubbish, I want to turn that on its head now. So part of the teachings of Islam is to your actual job, when you do your job as if it's there's a teaching of Islam that says do your job if it's an act of as if it's an act of worship, meaning do your job to the best of ability. So worship in Islam means to do things to make God happy, and those things basically do good things. So when you do your job, don't do it because the boss says, you've got to do it. Like, the boss doesn't know everything you're doing and how well you're doing it, and they definitely don't know, because all the places I go to, there's so many problems because people are doing their job really badly, even though there are lots of line managers and all this kind of stuff, right? So my point is, if I've gone over it, I've gone over my 10-minute segment limit. The point is, do your job as if there's great meaning behind it. You're trying to make the world a better place, and then again, you'll feel successful every day. All right, here we go. I'm just going to have a little sip. Oh my gosh. We can test, right? Is that better? I forgot to turn the light on. Anyway, right. Okay, so here we go. So, where are we? So, let's look at this. If you have a choice of, say, 5 jobs, the ones that pay the most have the most sin, and the ones that pay the least have the least sin. Which do you pick? Okay, maybe this sounds kind of strange, but it's kind of in the context of, I really need to get married, and so there's a second follow-up question, which is, I really need to get married, and people only get married to people who've got lots of money and stuff, and I think I could get lots of money if I did a sort of job that wasn't so good, or had a degree of, like, just doing bad stuff to a little bit, but at least I'll get more money. How do I pick what to do? What direction do I go in? That's the question, really. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about them separately. So you've got these different options, and you're thinking so really just 2 things. I'm trying to get myself in the camera with both hands, so I don't do gestures that nobody understands. Anyway, so on the one side, you feel like you can get a job where it's not such a good job, in the sense that you could be doing something really bad. I don't know. I don't want to call it drug dealing. Maybe working in the financial markets, where you're manipulating poorer countries and stuff like that. Okay, maybe that's a complicated one. Okay, and on the other side, there's, I don't know, teacher or something, doesn't pay well, and but it's helping people. Okay, so which one? And then there's some job in the middle. I don't know. I'm not going to keep making examples. Okay, the point is that the first thing is this sin thing. People imagine that doing things that are religious make your life miserable. That is kind of what is behind this question, because I don't think this question could exist if you realized that, and this is what I say in all my shows, this is what my shows are all about. It's like, these spiritual things, they make you happy in this life. Okay, so I'm trying to look at this camera. I keep looking at that one over there. But anyway, right, okay, so they make you happy in this life. So what does that mean? Does that mean you pick the job that has all the good spiritual qualities of, helping people, but pays hardly anything? Or do you pick some sort of middle job in between? And so what it boils down to a couple of things, right? So first of all, remember that the sinful stuff might look to you, depending on your level of spirituality, and I call it a vantage point, because the greater your spirituality, the more you are like a bird. So in spiritual teachings, people who are spiritual are like birds, fly up, and they've got a bird's eye view. They've got a bigger picture of what's really happening. And materialistic people, they're known as worms, and they're like right next to the ground, so they don't really have any vantage point. They don't really see the big picture. And so if you're kind of maybe somewhere in between, I don't know, then maybe you can't appreciate how bad those sinful things are. And to the same extent, you're attached to those sinful things. So it's really hard to move away from them. And so I try to keep to a short answer. Go for the middle option according to your vantage point and according to your ability. So go for the middle job. Fine. Okay. Like, we're always sinning, all of us, and we're always trying to make a 1% step forward every day. And this 1% forward every day is very much an Islamic teaching, which is, there's a saying of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, that God likes people who make slow and steady progress, or continuous, or what's the word? Continuous? Something like continuous progress regularly, but small. He likes them better than people who do, big bits of good activity and then give up for a while. Okay, and that God likes that because for all sorts of reasons, basically for your benefit, because that's how successful people work. They are consistent, and most people don't like to be consistent because that's boring. Okay, so I'm going on all different tangents, but the point of saying that was, again, go for balance every single time according to what your ability is at the time. So when you make a good choice, it's like you flex your spiritual muscles, and then you become more spiritual, and then your balance, or what's a spiritual choice for you, is different. Like you will be able to go for, in the future, you'll be able to go for that really, what you consider to be really spiritual choice, the one with less money. That's part of it, but also it's kind of a false situation, because the most successful people ever to live, like the most successful person ever to live, was a person who always chose the spiritual choice, and that was Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And that was written by a person who was not Muslim, who wrote the top 100 most successful people. So it's kind of a false choice as well. I'm really trying to look into this camera, but there's my pictures over there, and somehow it helps me to look at my own picture. Anyway, right. Yeah, 1 second. So yeah, if you have to make a choice, so try it. I'm trying to kind of summarize now in this little question that spiritual choices make you feel better, and they are long-term habits that make you more successful and give you better jobs. And another thing I wanted to say was, like, the job that is sort of on the far end, really sinful but pays a lot, those people are not going to be happy, because they're fighting their inner nature. So what God teaches you to do is, God's made you, okay? And he knows how you work better than you do. And God has given you a guide saying, like, sin, bad, not good for you, doesn't work. It's like you're like an electric I don't know, camera, whatever it is, right? Your phone, and it's not waterproof. And then your God says, don't put yourself, it's like, don't put yourself in the water, otherwise you'll ruin the electric sort of thing. That's sin. Okay. So again, it's another false question due to lack of spirituality and self-awareness. They're kind of the same thing. So try to go for the better choice, and then the more better choices you make, the better, the more happier you will be within yourself, because you will like yourself more. Okay, that's another thing I want to throw in. The more good things you do, the more you like yourself, the more confident you'll feel, because they're all kind of connected. And I'll talk about why, I suppose. And then the more better choices you'll make in the future. So you're just setting up yourself by making these choices that seem to be hard in the short term, like, oh, I won't take the drug dealer job, and I'm going to go for whatever. The drug dealer job will make you happy in the short term. You'll make loads of money in the short term. You'd probably get beaten up and lose it all at some point. I don't know, and take the drugs yourself, whatever. So that's 10 minutes on that. Okay. Let's do this one. Sorry, not triple clicking properly. Okay. I need to get married, and people nowadays look at your bank balance to see if they accept you. So is that not a good enough good reason to pick a relatively sinful job that pays well so that you can get married? Right. Okay. So first of all, I like to say that thank you so much for all these questions, all these different people who are giving me these questions. And these questions are so important. And I try to avoid not just giving answers that are just robot-like logic, because we are emotional beings. We do have needs. We do want to get married. There's so many things we want in life. Okay, so appreciate that it's hard. Okay, and what you want to do is you want to take steps to make these currently hard choices into easier choices, and you do that by step by making the smaller correct choices, and you become stronger and you become wiser and you make better choices. So that's kind of a more general kind of answer. Another thing I want to say about this, people get married nowadays and a good bank man. I've got one thing in my mind, but I kind of want to say it last because I don't think it's the best starting point. So is it not good enough to pick a relatively sinful job? Okay, so this question, you need to start thinking about how much do I really need to get married, right? Because it feels like there's a sort of vagueness. It's like, the reason why I'm not married is because I'm not a millionaire. No, because there's lots of people who are not millionaires and they're married. How did they get married, right? So how much do you really need? And also be aware that, do you really want to marry a person who only marries you for money, right? But then you'll say, you know what, I just want to get married at least. If you're getting a bit older, it's like, okay, I'm not going to be picky. I just want to get married. And I want to move on with my life, as it were. So I'm not picky. So, and by the way, feel free to, comment, correct me in the sense that, let's say, you might say, hang on, what about this part of the question? Or what about that part of the question? Yeah. So, I totally understand that you need to get married, and it's a difficult situation. So partly think about what I said in the previous part about making, out of these, say, 5 jobs that you had, the good and bad, go for something, make progress, go for that middle job. Okay, let's say you get that middle job. Hey, great. Now, according to what you're saying, you should be able to get married, right? So let's say, so try to think positively. Like, think about what you can do. And so if you can get a job and I know this person, you can get a job, right? But it's not so easy, I know, in this modern world. So try to make positive steps. Another thing is to fast, right? So this person knows about this, but let's talk about it a little bit. So when we fast, and I fast every week, and I tell people why I fast. It's not just this spiritual thing that I'm doing to hopefully to get blessings. I don't just do that all the time. Certainly, I hope to get blessings. But the idea is that I myself, during the week, become more and more materialistic. And fasting reduces my energy so that I cannot work like crazy. And I work like crazy, not really because I absolutely have to. It's because of it's sort of materialistic weakness that keeps creeping into me. Okay, so I slow down and try to be sort of less materialistic, and try to think more about God and things like that. So that helps me. And sometimes, and it also reminds me that I don't need all the millions of things. Why am I rushing all the time to get millions of things? It's because of this never-ending pursuit of materialistic things. God has said in the Quran that when you chase materialistic things, it's like chasing a mirage. You think happiness is there, you try to get it, you arrive at that thing that you get that thing, and then you realize it's not happiness, and then you go, oh, if I had the other thing, then I'd actually finally find happiness. So that's that materialistic drive that is never ending, which does not make you happy. So that's why, getting married is just that another materialistic thing that you think, if only I had that, then I would finally be happy. I'm not saying you shouldn't do that, because I think it's really good to get married. There's so many spiritual benefits of getting married, but don't make it the be all and end all. Maybe it's easier said than done if you're getting a bit old and you haven't got married, right? So you can only be positive and make positive steps forward, like get a good job, fasting, so that it kind of reduces your needs to get married immediately. Like, you can be more patient, because nothing happens overnight. Okay, so that's why you need to be patient in life generally. If you're not patient in life, I'm not saying you're not being patient enough, but generally you need to be patient in life to have any sort of success. Because if you're not patient, then you'll just give up, and nothing comes from doing something once. You have to do it over and over and over again, and you've got to enjoy doing it over and over again, in fact. Right. Because successful people, as you might hear in these other videos, these kind of self-help guru type videos, successful people are more excited about the process than the goal at the end. The people who are the least successful are always like, oh, if I only won the lottery, that's how they think, then I'll be happy. Successful people are like happy every day, because they're living with purpose. They're doing something they care about that is important, and it's nothing to do with the money. And strangely, they say this, the money comes. So maybe one of the problems is that you need to find something, you need to find a purpose, a responsibility, see how you are responsible, something you don't have to do, but you choose to do. And that's a difference as well. Because I know this particular person, he does a lot of good things, but maybe he's doing it because he has to do it. Okay, that's a bit unfair, because this is a very nice guy. Okay, but I feel like, because I'm trying to be really specific to this person, and this probably helps so many other people, that you need to be proactive in life to be successful. Isn't that kind of the same thing? Like, do you imagine a successful person who just waits and things just happen to them. Not really. It's not like you go and get it either. That's important to realize. It's not like I'm going and get it. I do my part of the bargain. I do good things. I help people. I try to make a difference. And I concentrate on that. And I wait for success to arrive near those good actions. Like, say, for example, I'm making an application. I put most of my focus on making that application really good. And I tell people about it because I think it really benefits them, but I don't depend on that result either. Okay. It's not like I'm grabbing people and saying, I'm grabbing, as if my life depends on it. That's success. It's like I just put in the work every day, and one day I hope it'll pay off. But actually, it pays off every day because I enjoy making that important product that will make a difference. Okay, so 1 minute left on that. Yeah, and there's one thing at the end to balance everything I'm saying. So the Quran says, I was checking this out. Okay, is that there? Yeah, okay. So, keyboard. 1 second. Sorry if I'm getting too close to the camera. Okay. Oof, right. Stretch quite a lot there. Okay, let's zoom in for you guys. Okay, the Holy Quran is a guide for life, written in the first person by, basically, it's God talking, and written in Arabic because it's the most expressive language there is, and there are other reasons for it. Quran is full of meanings for everything it says. But anyway, what I want to point out is but there's a but. Like, here's the instructions. Like, first of all, I'm not making up all these instructions. It's like, you should keep yourself chaste. Don't go around, doing it with everybody. And there was something about fasting somewhere. Anyway, maybe that's another one. Okay, but at the end it says, but if anyone forces them, then after their compulsion, Allah will be forgiving and merciful. Basically, it's like, if anyone forces you in a situation where you end up doing something bad, like we're all human beings, we end up doing something bad, then God is forgiving. But does that mean you take that as an excuse? No, you do lots of other things. In the Quran, it's got lots of advice. I just mentioned one, which is that you should fast, right? And I mentioned other stuff about actually being proactive in life. But if after all that, if society, let's say, forces you in a situation where you can't get married because you need some sort of caveat, like you try your best and you still fail, okay, then fail a bit small and try to get back on the good side of things because it's for your own benefit. So that's how I round off that question. Okay. Okay. Oh, there was another question, wasn't there? Okay. I feel insecure about asking for anyone's hand in marriage because I'm poor. Okay. So, insecurity comes from other things, the lack of self-value. And that lack of self-value doesn't really come from being poor or rich, because there are some very confident poor people. And often, like, I remember that there's a lot of rich people who are very insecure. So that's not like, they're not really connected. In fact, it can be the opposite quite often. Okay. Right. For example, I think Rupert Murdoch, very rich person, controls a lot of Western media. He said he's always insecure. He said that to, I don't know, some other rich person. I can't remember, but it was some interview somewhere. Anyway, so that's that. So insecurity is not to do with being poor or rich. Actually, it's your internal conscience, which is be created by God to constantly guide you. And when you are feeling depressed or sad or insecure, these are things that inside you it's saying you're not going in the right direction. You need to make better choices, and you will feel happy every day. You'll feel like more confident every day. And the confidence is not about like a sense of like, oh yeah, I'm really, really good or something. It's strange. It's like when you start loving everybody, you become less attached to your own person. Your own person is not important. Like I'm doing the show. Do I feel, was it confident? No, I don't feel confident, or no, not confident. I feel like I'm talking to my brothers and sisters who I truly want to benefit. There's no other benefit than that. And I'm just a vessel for that. I don't, like, nothing matters, right? So there's not even a case of what was it word? Insecure, right? So what I'm saying is you need to get outside yourself. And the way you get outside yourself, I feel like I'm a broken record, as they say, because I keep repeating the same thing. It's just you do good things and you remember God. In fact, those are like the shortcut to happiness. In the Quran, it says, if you want to be happy, if you want paradise in this life and the next, I think I mentioned it last time, just do these two things. Remember God and do good things. Now, what is a good thing? We can talk about that, right? A good thing is something that doesn't happen automatically. A good thing is not the same thing in all situations. Like, I don't know, let's say cleaning the floor could be seen as generally a good thing, keeping things clean. But what happened if you clean the floor knowing, I don't know, people's prized possessions were there and you wipe them and sweep them into the drain? That's not good. So there's not a one single thing that is good by itself. Good is always in a context, and that's again an Islamic teaching. A moral thing is a right action at the right time. So do good things depending on the situation, whatever situation. Life constantly throws you open to choices. Are you going to do this or are you going to do that? Keep going for the right choices and you will start feeling more secure in who you are. And then now let's just bring it back more specific to this question, because that was kind of a general argument for how to feel secure, because that is a big problem for a lot of people. And I should tell you very quickly that when I was young, and I kind of mentioned this earlier on, I was an introvert. I really didn't like talking to people. This is not something I would automatically do, these live shows, and I do lots of other crazy stuff, okay? They're kind of the opposite, actually, of what I do. I'm really more like an introvert who would be happy like in a corner by myself somewhere, right? But because it's the right thing to do, I end up doing the opposite of who I naturally am, let's say. So the point is, that's how you become more confident, if that's the correct word. But I don't really feel confident or not confident. It's just being of service to God, as if I feel like as if I'm invisible to myself more and more. Okay, so that's how it really feels. So I wanted to say something else. Yes, so yeah, and more specifically about this thing, let's zoom it in. I'm going to get rid of, I think I've got, you might not even be able to see that, what I'm showing, because I had the banner up. Let's do that. Zoom in. Oh, I really want to, I just scrolled down. I remembered that I really want to talk about this guy called GaryVee. He's really popular in the internet. But let me quickly finish off this. Got 2 minutes. This particular point. You need to really understand the value of marriage. That is not to do with you. This is another really important point, because the more you do things for your benefit, the less your own benefit, the less you actually achieve your goals. So let me say this a different way. When you do things that are selfless, you end up benefiting. If you do things because you think it will make yourself better, it doesn't have the same effect, because again, we are really kind of amazing, I don't know what the words are, high standard, complex beings who need high level stuff like connection with God. We need to understand the universe and all this kind of stuff, right? So you need to do things of a high standard, and that is, why do you want to get married? Don't do it for yourself. Do it for, say, potentially the person you're trying to marry. That will actually be a better setup for marriage as well, by the way, because marriage is not easy work. Okay, and that's why there's blessings in it, because you develop when you get married as well. So that's one thing. Try to do things not for your own sake. That is partly why you're insecure. Now, if you were not thinking about yourself, it would be that easy to go and say, I want to, this person is part of a Muslim community, and part in Muslim communities and organized Muslim communities, you have departments arranged to get people married. Okay, even in many traditional societies, they have that. They have matchmakers effectively. Okay, so what he's saying is, I feel shy to even go to the matchmaking department, and I'm saying, you need to get outside yourself. You need to make everything about other people, not yourself, and then you start getting everything as well, because you just start being more proactive. And let's leave it at that. Okay, fine. So yeah. So one of the things I love talking about is alternative happiness ideas, or alternative success or life ideas, from people out there, in the internet world. GaryVee, or Gary Vaynerchuk, is very popular about giving advice. Got a lot of following, and he likes to swear a lot. He's a millionaire businessman. I like him a lot, but nobody's perfect, and we'll talk about both sides of what I like and what I don't like, and what is Islam's even better alternative to what he is saying, because that's the whole point. It's not me trying to do review of famous people. It's like, how this whole show is about, how can Islam make your life better really quick and really easily. Okay, so this guy called GaryVee tweets, I've actually starred this. It doesn't look like stars, but anyway, he says, yesterday's. Okay, he said, bad word, begin with F. Bad word, yesterday. It's like, forget yesterday. Let's just say that. Forget yesterday. Don't dwell on it. Understand it, learn from it, but don't over-respect it. Allow it to affect tomorrow negatively. Okay, so let's start with where I agree with that. Understand it. Understand what went wrong yesterday and learn from it. Beautiful. Maybe that sounds obvious, but people don't spend enough time reflecting on their lives and trying to look at their lives as a sort of constant exam where they're supposed to learn lessons. Things don't happen by accident. Bad things don't happen by accident. You set them up often. Okay, there's different ways of looking. It's a bit complicated, but if lots of bad things are happening to you, you should realize that you're probably setting them up. Okay, now there could be bad things that, let me say even better, bad things that you don't want happening, that you're unhappy about, that you're unsatisfied about. Okay, those are things that you set up, but you're unaware of because you're not reflecting on them. There are also bad things on the other side that happen that you take on by purpose, and you're happy about them. Okay, and there could be really painful stuff, like, I don't know, Prophet Muhammad would go to cities where he knows he's asking for trouble, but he's happy enough to go there because he's happy about sacrifice. His life is about sacrifice for other people. Okay, so those are, I'm trying to differentiate them a little bit. Okay, so understand what happened yesterday, realize there is a lesson to be learned. So totally agree with that. That's beautiful, and people should think about them. But really what he's saying is, don't overthink about them. Don't overthink about them, and so that you don't make positive progress. And that is very much, again, about very much an Islamic way of looking at life, because first of all, Islam is always about being positive. Islam is always thinking about, and this is kind of really important, because we get so Islam is about thinking, what does God think, as the judge. And that's a really good compass to have. Because if you don't care about what God thinks, I'm trying to get my hand in the picture in the right place. If you don't do that, then what you start thinking about is what everybody else thinks. If you don't choose, everybody has a God. Let me explain that. If you don't, what I mean by God is the one that, the thing or the things that you truly worship. Some people really worship the actual God, the creator of the universe, and other people worship their friend at work who they want to show off to. That's what I mean by God, right? The one that you want to show off to. Okay, so I'm going to wind back now. If you care about what God thinks, then God says that you should think, be hopeful for me, right? He says, I am like my servant thinks of me. If he thinks good of me, then I am good. If he thinks bad of me, then I'm bad. And that, well, I am that way. Okay, there's all sorts of reasons for that, but the point is that you should be hopeful that God will forgive you if you do the right thing. So generally, Muslims are hopeful of God, and they are optimistic, and they make steps forward. There's a beautiful, this is the, yeah, I'll try to finish off with this because I don't realize I've only got 4 minutes left. There's a beautiful saying that goes something like this, and maybe it's very much in line with this, and it goes something like this. There was a man who had killed, I don't know, 98 people or something, right? I don't think it's a true story. No, it's not a true story. Okay, and then he goes, he's nearing the end of his life, and he's thinking, you know what, I'm regretting killing those 98 people. I'm trying to look into the camera. So I'm regretting killing those 98 people. And so he goes to a wise spiritual man or something, and he goes, listen, I killed 98 people. What can I do? You know, how can I make up for it? And the spiritual man goes, nothing. That, like, 98 people, are you kidding me? And then the man who killed 98 people says, well, if it makes no effect, then I'm going to kill you. And he kills them, kills that man. So now his count of people he's murdered is 99 people. But he's still feeling pretty bad about killing the 99 people. And he goes to another spiritual person, maybe getting some other advice. And this spiritual man was a bit wiser. And he said, actually, all you have to do to, to get to heaven, as it were, is to reach that city. Because that city is basically heaven. Okay, so he said, fine, I'm going to go for it. So, such a beautiful saying. I'm about to teach. It goes something like this. He goes, all right, he goes on his journey, and he's going towards the city, and he knows he's about to die. And somewhere along the journey, he dies. And then God says, no, then the angels who are supposed to decide where, they do God's bidding, as it were. And they said, what did they say? Say, where should we put him? He seems to be somewhere in between heaven and hell, the city of hell and the city of heaven. And then God says, measure it. I ruined the story completely, because he didn't just die. What he did, he crawls, and then when he's dying, but he's crawling, and then he inches forward. Whatever energy he has, he keeps going forward. And then the story goes something like, it seems apparently that he was closer to the side of hell, but God made it so that the distance between heaven and hell was shorter. The point of it in the last few seconds is that always be hopeful, always focus on God, who is truly the real judge. And that's how you should be thinking. Don't make other people your God, because that's another great thing GaryVee talks about. He always says, like, and it's really true. He does say stuff like, the reason why you're not successful is because of one or two people that you care about that are getting in your way. When you say care about, you care about their opinions, even though their opinions shouldn't matter. They kind of should, if their opinion matter based on some sort of wisdom. So anyway, have a positive attitude, look forward, and you will have a positive attitude if you do good things. Then you'll like yourself more, and you'll be more proactive, because being good means doing a positive action that's not to do with yourself, that propels you forward. Good actions propel you forwards. Have a great week. Maybe join me next week. Sorry if I haven't seen your comments or questions. Oh, there are no questions today. That's interesting. Maybe I need to get people to ask me more questions. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you, my brothers and sisters. Have a great week.